Hi guys, Tories like Jacob Rees-Mogg are seeing the writing on the wall. He's likely to lose his seat at the next election, so in order to shore up what little support he has to blame somebody else for the disastrous decisions made by his party and government. Remember, this is the guy who is a backer of Boris Johnson and Liz Truss. So who does he want to present as the culprit? Well, the Bank of England, of course. Mogg suggested that the UK Central Bank should have its independence reviewed. Have a listen to this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and may I thank my honourable friend for his distinguished service as a voice of His Majesty's government, and refer him to what the former chief economist of the Bank of England, Andrew Haldane, has said today, referring to a double blow to the credibility of the Bank of England, which was late to put interest rates up and missed inflation, and has been slow to reduce them, hammering the economy. Does my honourable friend agree that the Bank of England is no longer showing itself to be competent and its independence must be questioned?
I don't think I will quite agree with my right honourable friend, but what I will say is that it's very, very important that we leave the Bank of England to do its work, respect their independent mandate, but from the Treasury, we do what we can to make sure that we bring inflation down and support them in that mandate. And as I say, the party opposite, their plans, whether they claim that they've dropped them or not, their plans will lead to an increase of borrowing or an increase in taxes that will significantly damage that aim.
Okay, so, oh my goodness, this idea of removing the independence of the Bank of England. Now, this, of course, is not something that Jacob Rees-Mogg wants to actually achieve. This is about a distraction. Blame somebody else because we're in a recession. Blame somebody else because of the cost of living crisis. Not the government's fault, it's the Bank of England's fault. Now, the Bank of England is very limited in what it can do. It can engage in quantitative easing and it can raise and lower interest rates. That's all it can really do. Every other policy, economic policy, is the job of the government. So the government have to take responsibility, but of course they will not. And Jacob Rees-Mogg will not take responsibility either. It's always about offloading responsibility onto somebody else. Now, was the Bank of England right? I don't think so when it came to lowering interest rates, raising interest rates. I think they were too late in some ways. So Jacob Rees-Mogg is somewhat correct here. But this idea of removing the independence of the Bank of England, what would be the alternative? The alternative would be that Parliament or the government would appoint the governor of the Bank of England. Then that governor would be basically doing what the government told them to do. So they would say, well, let's raise interest rates. They wouldn't be actually following economic advice. They'd be following political advice. So before a general election, what would they do? They would lower interest rates, to hell with the economy, and it would result in a positive for the government. Then the consequences after the election, after the government win, for example, the governing party win, then they would raise interest rates again. So the interest rates would bounce about in respect not to the strength of the economy, but to the political will, the political whims, I should say, of a political party, the one in power. This would be a disaster. And you would have a terrible economic situation because the bank would not be following the advice of economists. It would be doing whatever the politicians of the day had asked it to do. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.